Hello everyone. So this is chapter 28 from my contemporary romance novel Under A Namibian Sky. In this chapter we follow Luca and Naomi to their honeymoon hotel suite. But Luca still has to process what Santina has told him. So, there's drama and he's feeling passionate, Italian passionate. And so, a little warning. This chapter contains some heat. That Luca could multitask so efficiently came as a huge surprise. Naomi watched in amazement as he flew the jet, phoned the airport and arranged the Almaty for them, and booked the honeymoon suite at the Namib Sands Hotel. When he'd finished with the phone, she borrowed it to call Kerry. "Please apologise to everyone for us. We'll see you tomorrow." Kerry was cool about it, almost as though she'd expected it. She'd already announced it to their guests, who didn't seem to mind in the slightest that Luca had whisked his bride away so surreptitiously. In fact, they thought it rather romantic. There was no need for Kerry to offer explanations. Where would she even begin to explain what was behind Luca's sudden wish to be away from the lodge? It appeared no one else knew Santina and Enzo's long-kept secret. After Naomi had impressed upon Kerry to keep her informed of any developments with Auntie Elsa, she sighed and sat back in her seat, happy to be alone with Luca on another adventure. Maybe this was what her life would be like from now on. Luca landed the jet expertly at Eros Airport, where the Almaty sports car they'd used before waited for them. Ever the gentleman, Luca opened the passenger door for Naomi and made sure she was sitting comfortably inside the car before he closed her door. He walked around the vehicle to slide into the driver's seat beside her. Naomi was getting used to the admiring stares the car attracted, and remembered that no one else could see the occupants inside unless she wound down her tinted window. By the time Luca pulled up to the hotel, the staff was ready for them, but somewhat surprised to find they had no luggage. The honeymoon suite was massive and lovely. Dark red rose petals lay strewn in the shape of a heart over the crisp white sheets of the bed. Naomi imagined the reason the hotel staff had fashioned their toweling robes into swans were that swans mated for life, a symbol for marriage. Champagne on ice and a cheese board with fruit awaited them on the two-seater dining room table. Gorgeous scented candles placed around the room infused the air with a heavenly scent of honeysuckle, a happy coincidence, as it was Naomi's favourite. Luca kicked off his shoes and sank onto the sofa at the foot of the bed. He looked exhausted. Naomi wasn't surprised. It had been a crazy few days, and today had been a day of extreme highs and extreme lows for him. She went to sit next to him, leaning her head on his shoulder. He took her hand and twiddled with her rings. "This is not how I imagined our wedding night to turn out." Naomi turned and put a finger to his lips to silence him. "You've said before, nothing about your proposal had turned out according to your desires, and yet here we are. We're married. We're happy, aren't we?" "I'm happy, amore mio, with you, but—" Naomi turned to face him. "Luca, please listen to me. I know you're upset about what Santina told you, but think of it this way. I'm on the verge of losing a mother, and you're on the verge of gaining a mother. Surely you must see life is too short to be angry with them. I believe Santina and Enzo truly thought they were doing the right thing. Can you imagine their torment through the years? Santina could never claim you as her son, even though biologically you are. Yet she stayed and looked after you. But they lied. All I can think of is how they've lied and how I'll find my mother again." "They didn't lie to you. They just didn't tell you the truth because you were too young to understand it." "But they allowed me to believe that everyone else thought about my mother. They said she'd left me and that she was just a, gold digger, see? Naomi touched his face, stroked down his cheek, his stubble prickling beneath her fingers. Her voice was soft, not wanting to hurt him any further. But she wasn't your mother, Luca. Santina is your mother. Luca looked at Naomi as though she'd poured a bucket of ice water over him. Oh my God! You're right! That's right! He got up and paced around the room. I heard Santina say she got pregnant with a baby she wanted to give my mother to save her life. But I was that baby. How is it I heard the story but didn't hear the truth in it? And you tried to tell me. You said she was my biological mother. But she was more than that. She'd been there for me since before my mother left, since before I was 8. You're right. Santina is my mother. The woman I'd always thought of as my mother, Cecilia, was no relation at all. She didn't even want me. My father is my father, and Santina is my mother. A light had gone on in his eyes. How could I have been so dumb? You weren't dumb, my Luca. You're just used to thinking of Cecilia as your mother. But from the moment I saw you and Santina together, I always thought you two looked a lot alike. Luca pulled Naomi up and hugged her to him. He swung her round and around. His delighted laughter resonated through both their bodies. So today, not only did I get married to the woman of my dreams, I received the best gift ever, my real mother. No wonder I've always felt so comfortable with Santina. No wonder she's always felt like a part of our family in our home. My God, how was I so blind? Luca sat Naomi down and cupped her head in his hands. He kissed her lips. Soon their kisses became deeper, more passionate. Their breathing became louder, until both were panting when they broke apart. Naomi's pupils had dilated, mirroring Luca's as it signalled her arousal. Luca took her hand and led her through to the bathroom, where a large jacuzzi bath met them. He opened the taps and poured in some bath foam with its delicate scents applied for that purpose. Then he continued to kiss her and slowly undressed her until she stood naked in front of him. At first she felt shy, but when he took off his clothes, she relaxed more. Luca was the most handsome man Naomi had ever seen. Not that she'd seen any naked men before, but she had seen plenty of beautiful toned male guests in the pool, wearing nothing but their swimming trunks. She couldn't help staring at his arousal. It looked so big. Would it fit? She was suddenly anxious. What if they found they weren't sexually compatible? Perhaps they should have had sex that night in the jet. At least then they'd have known for sure before they got married. Luca had filled the bath to the brim. He took her hand and helped her in. Then he disappeared, only to reappear moments later, carrying the champagne and 2 glasses. He got into the tub, splashing water all over the bathroom tiles, roaring as he did so. He popped the cork on the champagne bottle and handed her a glass, filling it with golden bubbles. When he'd poured his drink, they clinked their glasses together. He took a sip, his eyes remaining fixed on hers. He moved closer to her until their naked thighs touched. It sent a thrill through Naomi's body, which became amplified when he kissed her, his mouth tasting of champagne. They put their champagne glasses on the side of the jacuzzi as their kiss deepened once again. The warmth of the water, the warmth of the champagne as it made its way down her body, and the heat of Luca's kisses all drove Naomi wild. She kissed him back with equal passion, feeling her body open to him. But Luca was gentle and passionate in turns, taking his time. He lathered some bath gel in his hands and washed her, starting with her arms, her chest, teasing her nipples until they were hard and aching for more of his touch. He washed her back, drawing her close to him. Being pressed against his wet chest was so sensual that Naomi gasped. Luca got up and pulled her into a standing position before he kneeled in front of her. Then, applying more gel to his hands and lathering it, he washed her stomach and slowly teased her legs apart as he continued to look into her eyes. When his hands touched her intimate parts, Naomi could no longer contain the moan that broke from her lips. She closed her eyes, her knees bent as though of its own volition, and she gripped Luca's shoulders. His talented fingers found just the right spot to stroke, and he did so until Naomi felt herself quiver as her release rocked through her body. She'd experienced nothing as powerful before. It had taken a few seconds before she was herself again. Naomi was just about to lower herself into the jacuzzi when she realized Luca hadn't finished yet. He steered her over to the side and led her to sit down on the edge of the jacuzzi. He washed away all the gel from her intimate parts before placing himself between her legs. When his tongue touched her there, she moaned again and held onto his head. He used his fingers and tongue to pleasure her over and over until Naomi was in a haze of contentedness and satisfaction. But just when she felt it couldn't get any better, Luca got out of the tub and lifted her out too. He carried her to the big super king-sized bed and laid her down on top of the rose petals that released their scent as her wet body crushed them. Luca was gentle with her, checking every step of the way that she was okay and felt no pain as he entered her. She marvelled at his control. He went in slowly, and although at some point there was a sudden stabbing jolt, it lasted mere moments. As he thrusted rhythmically, Naomi relaxed more and enjoyed the sensation of being filled up by him. As his arousal took him beyond the point of return, Naomi watched his face in fascination as he spilled his seed deep inside her. He was more beautiful than she had words to describe. Naomi didn't remember falling asleep, but when she awoke, the sun was bright through the large windows opposite the bed. In the distance, she saw the dunes of the desert. It felt as though they were beckoning her home. But she resisted and looked around for Luca. The room was as lovely as she'd remembered from the night before, everything still in its place. Only Luca was missing. His side of the bed felt cold to her touch, which meant he must have been up for a while already. She wanted to get up, but her body felt lazy and heavy from all the loving of the night before. She felt a little sore, and looking down realized she'd bled on the white sheets. Shit, how embarrassing. She scooted over to the side of the bed and got up. She wasn't supposed to be on a period, so where did the blood come from? Then she remembered reading that sometimes losing one's virginity could cause a little bleeding. She had nothing with her. Oh well, tissue paper would have to do until she got back to the lodge. She put a pillow over the stain on the bed and went to the bathroom to clean herself. She could hear Luca's happy whistling before he even opened the door, but it stopped the minute he entered the room. "Mrs. Amati, where are you? I've come bearing gifts and food." Naomi giggled. "Coming? What? Again? I thought only I had the privilege of being in charge of that now." Naomi laughed. "I won't be long. Did you really bring food? I'm starved." When she entered the room, dressed in a toweling bathrobe, Luca was standing by a trolley of food, a huge grin on his face as he wafted the aromas in her direction. She couldn't help laughing at his silliness. The moment he saw her, he pulled a chair out for her. "Come, sit, please, wife of mine." "You're in a very good mood this morning." "Yes, I am. Everything is right in my world. I have the most amazing, most beautiful, most delectable, most delicious, most gorgeous wife in the entire world. What more could I possibly want?" Naomi grinned at him. "What about Santina?" Luca became a little more serious. "I called her this morning while you were still sleeping. I felt I had to apologize for my behavior last night. She was so sweet. She said she understood completely. Luca kneeled next to Naomi and took her hand in his. His eyes looked up into hers. With such sincerity, she wanted to kiss away anything that might still hurt him. I can't thank you enough, amore mio, for helping me to see the truth that was staring me in the face all this time. I'll be forever grateful to you. I feel blessed to have not just one but two such amazing women in my life as you and Santina, my dear mother. I'll talk to her properly when we get back to the lodge. He brought Naomi's hand to his lips and kissed her fingers before getting up and taking his seat opposite her. But now we eat, see? I'm starving too, and then I have one more hunger to satisfy before we can return. He wiggled his eyebrows at her, and Naomi burst into laughter, even as her body agreed with him about the other hunger that needed satisfying. The next chapter is a little sadder, when Auntie Elsa dies and Naomi becomes the owner of Desert Lodge. But it lightens up when we discover what Luca did to help with awareness of elephant poaching. So thank you so much for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for liking and sharing my videos. And most of all, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. If you haven't done so yet, please do so. I'd be so honored if you did. And if you click the bell icon, you will find out when I post the next videos. So until next time.